All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the first episode of the Fly Guys podcast. I'm Lawrence, or Thos, as you see on the screen.
And I'm Colin, just the Fly Guy 23 on the screen.
Yeah, and today we'll be simply grading the playoff grades for each NBA playoff team, including the play-in teams. Both of us have pretty much researched and just thought about how they've done in the season, and with our own respective criteria, we will simply just discuss and see what we've concluded from the season, and we'll be kind of putting them into this tier list that you guys see here today. Yeah. So I've heard that you've got a really, really long page of notes.
Yeah, dude, I swear, I have like 10 pages for this. I came ready, bro.
Yeah.
And yeah, we don't know any of our grades, so this is gonna be pretty interesting.
Yeah. I'm pretty excited. I think I was mostly basing my stuff on narratives, like how I feel like the expectation was. Like I'm not gonna give a team like an F just because they got out the first round. Like I think context matters a lot, you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. So I'm counting injuries in a few of the grades, and I think a few of the things I countered in with my grades are like, yeah, expectations before the playoffs, if there's any injuries, probably a few stats here and there. Actually, a lot of stats for me, but I don't know about you, but yeah.
Yeah, I
This
think
is
definitely pretty similar for me too. I think you have to factor all of these things. Like it's not as clear cut as oh, team 1 just lost 4-0 in the first round, like they deserve an F. Yeah. So
yeah.
yeah, okay, I'm pretty excited, and you see this tier list. Yeah, so the first team that we're gonna go with is the Atlanta Hawks. And yeah, I was just wondering, what do you think? Like, what would you give this team? They were a play-in team. They lost immediately to, I believe, the Chicago Bulls.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah,
Yeah.
what's your thoughts?
For me, okay, so first, my grade is a D, and here's my few notes on this. I didn't watch too much of the Atlanta Hawks even during the regular season, and I didn't watch the one play-in game. Oh, and to preface, before I continue, I probably watched more of the second round of the playoffs, so a lot of these play-in first-round teams might be based on statistics. So, anyways, for the Atlanta Hawks, I gave them a D just because I think this season has kind of proved that Trae Young Dejounte Murray pairing, as good as it seems on paper, a defensive guard and a really good score first, uh, able to pass guard isn't working, just because the players around them aren't working, and they've always been in no man's land for so long. I've just hated that the Hawks can't decide on or secure a really good star for Trae Young, other than Capella. I mean, Capella's pretty much been his lob partner for so long. But I also love the Bogdan Bogdanovic underrated Six Man of the Year campaign. I always love his play. I love six men like Bogdan. But other than that, D.
Okay. I was really closely leaning to either a D or a C for me personally. Like, so this is my perception of the Hawks. They got DeJounte Murray. They added a lot of offensive power to the team, but they sucked in terms of their defense. Like they were horrible. I think they were 27th or something in terms of their defensive rating. Yeah. For this season, they gave up 119 points per game. 119.4 points per game. And then yeah, they were 10 points off from the Miami Heat, who were the 8th seed. So in terms of that, yeah, I would probably give the Atlanta Hawks a D. But when I'm thinking about it in terms of playoffs, when I see them going against the Bulls, did I think that they were gonna win? Not really. And so if I'm thinking about it in terms of future outlook, this whole season, I would probably give them a D plus. It's kind of hard for the Hawks to really move forward from here. Like Trae Young made the conference finals in 1 year, and since then, the Hawks have been really underwhelming ever since. It's pretty unfortunate. Murray is yeah just hasn't panned out in the way that they would have wanted to. The East has got really top heavy teams. Like you're thinking about beating the Celtics right now, or you're thinking about how are you gonna get past the Knicks, the Damian Lillard and Giannis Bucks. Like, if you're the Hawks, it's like kind of difficult to see how they're gonna go past like those top teams in the East. And yeah, the fact that they, I guess, were the 10th seed, were terrible defensive rating, and just got decimated by the Bulls in like game one. I think originally I gave them a C minus. I might give them a D plus. Like after hearing your argument.
Yeah, I think that's pretty fair. I mean, I think that after they were giving up John Collins, they were still pretty unclear on what they wanted to do. Like after that, they didn't really make any interesting moves or any good moves. I mean, they kept they kept the same core: Trey, Dejounte, Bogdan, Clint Capella. But other than that, oh, and the rise of Jalen Johnson. You can't forget Jalen Johnson. Jalen Johnson this year has been a pretty good starter. Not too much research on that because honestly, I've just heard it from narratives. But yeah, other than that, like I think the team kind of needs to decide. Like you hear the rumors about them finally wanting to trade Dejounte Murray, maybe back to the Spurs, which is pretty interesting. But yeah, I think either find Trey a new suitor, maybe Wemby. That's outlandish, but
There's no way.
yeah, they gotta really decide a direction here because otherwise it's just another year of no man's land.
Yeah. I think how would you rate their like how they did relative to like playoff expectation, I guess? Cuz like the reason why I originally I gave them a C minus originally because I was like, okay, they were bounced in the play-in. I expected them to be bounced in the play-in.
Yeah, considering the East is pretty stacked, I feel like expectations for them are much lower than they were before, especially after giving up John Collins
Do you
and
mean
just
like the
knowing
East
that.
was a little bit less stacked than the West?
Oh, sorry, my bad. Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, I think yeah, a little less stacked, but still, there's enough better teams than them that you don't expect them to make a really good run, like maybe first round exit at most.
Yeah, I think for me, maybe if they like won one of the play-in games, I'd be giving them like a B or like something like that. But I, at least to me, like I feel like the Hawks met their expectation. Like I didn't expect them to be like a playoff, like insane playoff team. I just expected them to like lose to the Bulls. If I was a betting man, I was like choosing the Bulls. So like,
That's true.
yeah. So
Yeah, that
that's
might raise my yeah, that might raise my grade a bit more to C. So
yeah. Okay.
yeah, you
So
can put
like,
them on the list.
where do you think we would final location? Since you started it off, I'll let you choose B or C, or like.
I'm cool with C. Definitely not B. Definitely not
Oh
B.
no, I was meant C or D. No,
Okay.
definitely not a B. Definitely not a B. Okay, I could see them being like a C minus. Yeah.
Mhm.
Should I make a tier for C minuses? I feel like I could.
Yeah, because I feel like yeah, just plain letters doesn't spell it out enough.
Yeah. Add a row above and a row below. Okay. Let me do this and then just C. This is a C minus. Then we could move this up to a C plus. Also, are you able to see the screen of the tier list?
The tier list? Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. All right, so I would say the Hawks are a C minus or a D plus team at best. So maybe,
Mhm.
yeah, we can revisit it. Okay, now the glorious, the greatest franchise in NBA history. The we have 18, the absolute goats. Lakers who? LeBron's a first round exit while we're still winning championships. They're celebrating mid-season tournaments out here while we are winning the finals, decimating the path. 16-3. What else can I say? Now,
I
okay.
know, right? I mean, you gotta be happy that you guys finally beat the tiebreaker for most rings as a team. And
Yes,
when you
sir.
make Magic Johnson salty that you guys won the chip, you know you're good.
Yeah, I mean, Magic Johnson was on Twitter saying that how upset he is at the fact that the Celtics have more rings than them. What else can I say? We're just the best franchise in history. Like, it is what it is. We've won more. Yeah.
Exactly, man.
Now,
This is
no, go
sorry,
for
go
it. Go
ahead.
for it.
Nah, okay, I'll go with it. So, this is pretty good redemption from the 22 NBA Finals. I mean, you didn't have too many expectations considering you were going against Steph Curry and he was just in his prime at that time. But one shout out you gotta give aside from the players is Brad Stevens, because dude, the way they constructed this team is crazy, and all those robberies, those highway robberies they made for those trades, man. Porzingis for what? Tyus Jones and Marcus Smart, Drew Holiday for injury-prone Malcolm Brogdon and Time Lord. You've got to be thankful that Brad Stevens moved from coaching to front office, because that team was just destined to win from the beginning.
Oh yeah, I think if I had to give the MVP of like the Celtics, it would be for sure Brad Stevens. Um, I would say that like it's insane to me that they got first round picks from getting Kristaps Porzingis, and then they managed to get Drew Holiday of all players in the NBA. Like, if you told me that like the Celtics are gonna add Drew Holiday to their 2022 roster, it's just like, what the heck? And they somehow managed to get Drew Holiday on their roster without losing anything super significant. Like, yes, Time Lord was a second round, or sorry, not second round, a second, like all NBA second defensive team member. He was always injured, and so, and he couldn't shoot, so he was kind of an offensive liability. Marcus Smart was a defensive player of the year, but if you watch his games, he would just take boneheaded shots, and it's just like, bro, what is this guy doing, right? And
Exactly.
yeah, so I mean, I think it's pretty clear. Like, for any of these tier lists, like the goal of the NBA playoffs is to win a ring, right? Regardless of if you're the favorite or if you're an underdog, if you win the ring, I think you just deserve an A plus, right? It's like you accomplished literally the point of the NBA playoffs. You won it all, right? And even if you're the 2017 Warriors, if you win the ring, you win the ring. It's an A plus to me.
Exactly. As much as people say that they had an easy path to the ring, you got to give it to them, because they that's what you expect the dominant team to do, to win this much. Like, if you're the Shaq and Kobe Lakers and you're 16-1 in the playoffs, you're not going to say they had an easy path to the ring. They were dominant, and that's why we respect Shaq and Kobe, and we should probably give the same respect to Jason Brown and Jason Tatum. Sorry, Jalen Brown and Jason Tatum.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, I also got to give my flowers to Al Horford, because we thought that dude was pretty washed after he got DNP'd for the rest of the year in 2021. I think when he got traded to OKC after being in Philly, and dude is still holding it down at the starting center position, especially when Porzingis was out, and he's been very helpful in spacing the floor with Porzingis out. So yeah, I got to give my flowers to that old dude.
Mm-hmm. I think I was really happy that Al Horford won it, especially at his age. He's like 38, and 38 is pretty much like this guy is on wheelchairs, man. Like, you don't know how long he's gonna like last for. This guy might be done in like a season or two. Like, he's very close to retirement, and like he's had, I think, the second most playoff games played without winning a ring. I think Karl Malone was like number one, and now he finally has that elusive ring. He didn't even make a finals until 2022, so it's just like great to see him finally becoming a champion. Like, he's worked so hard for it. Yeah, but I think this.
Exactly.
Yeah, but I think the Celtics are a really easy grade because they're so dominant. Let's move on to now the Chicago Bulls. Where do you feel the Bulls kind of rank? It's one of those play-in teams, so it's a little hard to sort of see where they rank.
Yeah, exactly. I don't have too much notes on this, but what I want to say is first, so my grade is probably okay. Now that we have, I originally had them at C, but now I'm trying to think whether C plus or C minus. But I'll try to give my reasons just for that. So they're just another team that's been stuck in no man's land, and without Lonzo for what, it's already been 2 seasons since they lost Lonzo. It's been pretty iffy. Like they still want to keep DeMar DeRozan, and I mean, I don't know what he's doing this offseason, but the DeRozan Vucevic trades have been like, I don't know, like they haven't gotten them as far as they would have wanted. Like, maybe this team would be so much better if Lonzo wasn't injured, because they were Lonzo and Caruso, if I can remember, like they were one of the best defensive backcourts when they were still healthy. But yeah, and Zach LaVine has been injured this pretty like a lot of this regular season, so I mean, he's just been dipped in production, and you wish he was better, and like because DeRozan's still keeping up his production for how old he is. You know, he's the old, reliable mid-range scorer he's been for a long time, and you're just kind of wasting his time there. Like maybe, you know, those that time when he talked about he was recruited to the Warriors. Maybe he should have just gone, but that would have just ruined the landscape of the NBA. But anyway, yeah. Also, like Kobe White's been a pretty good surprise this year. I think probably a front runner in MIP, Most Improved Player. Like he had 42 against the Hawks in this play-in on 15 for 21, and that was a pretty pleasant surprise. And Ayo Dosunmu has been pretty underrated.
All right, thank you. I think I was on a pretty similar train of thought. Like the Bulls are like, I don't know, they're like one of those teams that are just like they're just there. Like there's like the epitome of a mid franchise. Like they haven't tasted any form of success since like Michael Jordan, and like I guess there was Derrick Rose in his time, and then boom, his knees went out, and it's like, oh, they're back in no man's land. I feel so for me, I was leaning more towards a D. I'm being a little bit more hater because kind of the way they went out against the Heat. The Heat didn't have Jimmy Butler when they were playing them, and it's like an extremely high like chance to capitalize on it. Like if Jimmy Butler was playing, I'd be like, oh, like easy C. Like I think they just this is expected. Jimmy Butler obviously is a very good playoff riser. He kind of coasts in the regular season, but when it turns playoff time, this guy is a beast, right? Um, but Jimmy Butler was out, and this was a prime time chance for the Bulls to at least somehow sniff playoff like revenue and like experience and just have 4 extra games in the postseason. But they lost to the Jimmy-less Heat, and so in the game, they were up 11-6 to start the game, and then to 25, and then the game went to 25-11 for the Heat. Like they went on a 19-0 run. And not only that, Chicago missed 14 straight shots. They could hit a like if this guy was shooting Tupac, like he would still be alive. Like every single one of these Bulls players could not hit a thing going like it was a disgusting performance. And and also the Miami Heat as stretches of this game went 0 for 8. They missed 8 straight shots and they still couldn't make it competitive. Then the Heat went 0 for 6 again and they still couldn't do anything. And it's just like, bro, your guys are playing a team without their best player. They go miss 14 like consecutive shots, and you still couldn't make it a game. Like, it's a little different if they they were competitive, like it was a close game, and they just lost in crunch. Like I'd be like, okay, like that's understandable. No, these guys got whooped in their like behind, and it's just like, bro, like come on, like at least I wanted like a decent performance. So like I don't know, the way the Chicago Bulls went out was just like it's just so like underwhelming. Just like man, you guys could have capitalized, but you really didn't. But in like terms of their expectations, like yeah, on paper the Bulls probably weren't really a playoff team. Like I guess you could say that. So like maybe they're more like a C minus, kind of like the Atlanta Hawks. But I just think that like given the circumstances, they had such a good opportunity to capitalize on it, and it's just their team just underplayed themselves. Like they just didn't play as well. Like they missed a lot of open shots in that game. I think DeMar talked about it in the conference after. He's just like, yeah, we just missed a lot of like open shots that we normally would make. It's like for that, I gave them a D plus.
Yeah, I could lean towards that. I mean, yeah, just like you said, no one really expected the Bulls to make the playoffs ever since Levine's been injured, and you know they've been pretty disappointing even with DeRozan and Vucevic still healthy. But yeah, that I'm looking at the field goal attempts right now, dude. Like 5 for 16 from Kobe White, Desuma with 3 for 15.
Yeah, like
Yeah, I mean when those guys are taking shots and yeah, it's not looking good.
yeah, and then also like kind of like you said, like they're also a team in no man's land. It's like what do they do to like progress from here? Like they're never gonna win a championship with this roster, if we keep it honest. But they're also
Yeah,
like not bad enough to like tank and get like a really really generational player. It's just like everything that the Bulls do is like mid. That's what my friend said. He's a Bulls fan. He's like everything that the Bulls do is just mid. So
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, you got to feel it for Kenny Beecham. Big Bulls fan and inspiration for my podcast and like my NBA knowledge. But yeah, like when you're like I think like you've got to move on from DeRozan and Vucevic somehow. It's you've already had what 2 or 3 seasons of this, and it's obviously not proven pretty good. So I mean, maybe you develop Kobe White, maybe you develop Ayo Dosunmu. Other than that, yeah, you're just gonna be stuck in no man's land like the Hawks again.
yeah, I think I agree. I think the thing is, my philosophy is you need to have at least a top 10 player in the NBA or a player that is able to rise to a top 10 level in the playoffs. And DeMar, unfortunately, I don't think has a good history of his in terms of the playoffs. Like, you know, when he was in Toronto, like LeBron owned that franchise. Like they were called the LeBronto Craptors. Like they were getting destroyed, like decimated. It was like LeBron was a part-time owner of this Raptors franchise when he was there, right? Then he gets traded, and the next season that gets traded, like the Raptors win a ring. It was like, yeah, I don't know. Like DeMar is good. Like don't get me wrong, and like he does have his moments, but it's like if you're objectively looking at it and like wondering if this guy is a top 10 player, like he's getting older. He's not a top 10 player. He's not maybe even a top 15 player. And the Bulls are a mid team. They can't even make it to the playoffs, but they're not good enough to tank like I don't know, the Pistons. Like at least the Pistons have a really high percentage chance of like nailing the number 1 pick in the lottery, but like the Bulls are like yeah, it's like the worst zone they could possibly be in. So
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, you got to feel bad because they've given up like some good talent for this. Laurie Markkinen, Wendell Carter for was it for Vucevic and for Jimmy Butler. Like you could have developed those guys and look at Laurie Markkinen, All Star. Wendell Carter is a pretty solid starter on the Magic, and you just got to feel bad that the Bulls front office is just making this franchise even worse. But yeah, and like you said, like I definitely feel bad for DeRozan. Like dude was a pretty like he's a good star, but he just couldn't get past that one hump of LeBron in Cleveland, and like other than that, like he's probably just gonna be one of those stars that you never remember. Like maybe like you'll have to be like a non-casual to remember him in a few years after he retires.
for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah, Raptors fans will remember him because he is one of their best players in history. But yeah, I think so. Where would you want to place the Chicago Bulls? You started this off. It's your choice.
yeah. I think they could be on the same level as the Hawks. They were
Okay.
pretty parallel in terms of what they did and as well as their expectations.
Do you feel like they should rank above the Hawks or below the Hawks?
It's a very close thing, but I feel like I would give the edge to the Bulls just because I expected the Hawks to go a little further. Especially they have Trey Young, who's a much better, like or not much better, maybe just
Like he's
better
touched the
than
conference
the best
finals.
player of yeah, and much yeah. He's been to the conference finals, and he's better than DeRozan is now. I guess that's my way of seeing it at least.
Yeah, I think I would agree. And also, the Bulls did beat the Hawks in the play-in, so I think we'll give that edge. All right,
All right.
now the Cleveland Cavaliers. Oh man, I think the Cavaliers. I guess I'll start this off. Kenny Beecham is a hater of this Cavs squad because they tanked. They at the end of the game, they like completely threw their game so they could play the Magic, and it's like okay, whatever. In terms
I
of
mean,
how they did in playoffs, like I think they deserve a B. Like the Cavs aren't a favorite to win the NBA Finals like anytime soon. They did get matched up against the Magic and they got past them. Like they beat them in 7 games and they even managed to take off a game against the Celtics. Like there's no chance that anybody went into the Celtics Cavs series and was like, I think the Cavaliers are going to pull a grand upset. Like, no one's saying that, right? Like the Cavaliers were expected to be a second round exit, and they were a second round exit. But to me, the reason why I give them a B and not a C is because, like, a second round appearance isn't bad for a team like the Cavs. Uh, they didn't have Mitchell, and they were like, I think they played the Celtics pretty well. Like, they managed to take off a game against, a very, very, very good Celtic squad. Um, Maybe I would give them like a B minus, but I think they like kind of a like if they lost in the first round, I would have maybe given them like a C minus. But like they managed to get past the Magic. They got into the second round. They put up at least a fight to the Celtics. They did better than the Pacers. I think they deserve a B minus. Like they have an okay future. Like they might have Donovan Mitchell back again. It's like I think if you're a Cavs fan, you're like this is kind of what you expect. Maybe they've even given them a few surprises. What do you think?
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, you wish they wouldn't have gone to 7 against a pretty young Magic team, but during the regular season, the Magic were a pretty, I think, is a very good defensive team. So you immediately got to give props to that. And Bankero is just popping off for a rookie or sophomore. I'm sorry, I'm really mixing up my years, but yeah, considering Donovan Mitchell still carried his production like 50 and two 30 bombs against the Magic, and then he had two 30-point games against the Celtics before he got injured. Yeah, he's been pretty good, so you can't say anything bad about him because he's been carrying. But I think the one person to blame in this, even though he was injured for some of the regular season, is Darius Garland, because you thought that dude was gonna be the second leading scorer, or at least the really good true point guard that he was for the Cavaliers, and he's just been disappointing because this is against the Celtics. He had 14 in game 1, 14 in game 2, 15 in game 3. He had a 30 bomb in game 4, sure, but 11 in a closeout game 5. Yeah, he's just been disappointing. Like when you look at, I don't know if you've seen like in 2K in a lot of the My League videos, they predicted the Cavs to win the finals. I think that was either 2K23 or 2K24. And I mean, you expect this team in real life to go in the second round, but yeah, on paper, when you looked at this team, like two defensive centers, bigs in Evan Mobley and Jarrett Allen. Evan Mobley's been pretty good. He's been holding it down. Sadly, Jarrett Allen got injured, so you can't say too much about him. But yeah, they've still met our expectations in terms of just making it to the second round, especially when you're against the number 1 seed in the Celtics. You were expecting that.
So, what would you say is like your personal grade for the Cavs?
I originally had a C, but yeah, I'd say I'd raise it up to a B minus as well. I definitely agree on that.
Okay, I'm gonna add a row below. Maybe I should have like made all of these rows beforehand. Okay, I'll put the Cavs in B minus. I think, yeah, I think that's kind of where I would rank them. Obviously, it's you're not beating the Celtics. So, okay, now this one's a really fun one. The Clippers. What are we giving the Clippers? I think we'll see. I'm curious on what you have because this was one of my yeah more
Oh, all
interesting
right.
teams.
Okay. Yeah, all right. I'm cool to start us off. So, first, the grade. I'm really sad to say this, but I'm really gonna have to give an F because it's already been 3 years of this Paul George Kawhi Leonard pairing, and sure, it's the first of James Harden and a little bit of Russell Westbrook, but dude, when you have two All Stars like that, one who's a champion and Finals MVP, and one who's like a been solid, especially MVPG. I'm an OKC fan, so you know I know the prowess of PG, and I was a little salty when he left the Clippers. You gotta expect more from them. Like, sure they went against Dallas and Luca and Kyrie in one of the best scoring backcourts, but dude, when Paul George just puts up 19.5 points per game against Dallas, that's pretty disappointing from your first star, especially when Kawhi got injured and just put up 12 points per game in 2 games against Dallas. And Paul George put up a stinker in game 3, 7 points to go down 2-1. Like, you you know him at, like, I think ever since that bubble year, like, he's, even if he's been scoring pretty good and he's lifted himself in the regular season, he's just never shaken off that playoff choker label against him. Like, props to him for coming back from that injury back in like 2013, that really bad injury that kept him out for a while, but he's still been a stinker. And James Harden, yeah, all that you gave all of that, like Batum, Covington, some role players, which okay is fine, but for him to be like your second leading scorer when Kawhi's out and he just puts up 7 and 16 in the last 2 games on like really bad efficiency is just, it just sucks. Like, sure, he put up 28 and 33 in the games 1 and 4, but he still looked pretty washed from that. And as a Russell Westbrook fan, it pains me to say that he's not as good as he was. Like, he's really turnover prone a lot more, which you could still see in his OKC days, but he's gotten worse over the years. But I mean, the only bright spot I've seen from this is that Zubac is still pretty solid, and Norman Powell is a pretty good six-man candidate. But other than that, their play has just been atrocious, and that's why I give them an F.
All right. Honestly, like, I yeah, like I think I view this Clippers team like pretty closely to what you look at. For me though, I didn't give them an F. I think I gave them like a D or like a D minus. And here's I guess my logic. So Kawhi was injured throughout I think most of this time, and I think Kawhi is an extremely like he's a beast when he's healthy. It's just he's never been healthy. And that's like kind of the weird spot I guess with Kawhi is that like I don't know if I thought the Clippers were going to beat the Mavs without Kawhi. Like and the reason why they're not a C even though Kawhi's out is because like bro, James Harden, Russell Westbrook, Paul George. Like you just list these names and you're like, wow, this team is stacked. And then what do you see them do? They drop 7 points. Like this I could have been out there and I might have made more of an impact than Paul George that day. And this guy has been a former All-Star, right? Like oh no, like what is happening? And it's just what do the Clippers do now? Like their stars are getting older. Like it's not like you can do much to like alleviate like Kawhi's injury history. Like he just gets injured. Like it just happens. And like unfortunately, Paul George and James Harden are like notorious playoff droppers. They just are. Like they just never have been able to get over that hump. Paul George has been a meme. Like there was like this one time they like made a there was this meme of like I think it was Paul George. They clicked. It was like a file folder. They click on it, and it's like playoff P. And then they clicked on it again, and it says this file is empty. And it's just like it goes to show like his playoff resume, pretty much. And like, yeah, I think because Kawhi is injured, and the Mavs were a finals team, like the Mavs were good. Like they were on a streak to end the season. Some people like doubted them because you know they're the fifth seed, but they decimated the Wolves. They beat the Thunder fair and square. Like the Clippers did go up against a really tough opponent in round one, so it and they did bring them to 6 games. So it's not like the Clippers like completely like it was like a disgusting performance. Like there were like at least some redeemable portions to where I wouldn't give them a straight F. But the maximum grade that I would give for this team is a D minus, and I would be like completely fine if they got an F for this season.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, when you're talking about the outlook of the Clippers, like they gave up so many picks for that SGA PG swap, and not really a swap, but yeah, and you just gotta feel like the Thunder are looking a lot better in that trade, looking more like the winners. Like initially, when like maybe 1 or 2 years ago, you were thinking maybe it was an equal trade because the Clippers got a star and the Thunder got their star to build on. But now that SGA is a top MVP candidate, you really and they got the picks too. They're loaded on picks. You've got to feel bad for the Clippers for how much they gave up and just they're even though their front office has been notorious for being pretty bad and I mean yeah they secured Kawhi and PG they still not um, they're still not good. So you know when they try to say they're gonna claim LA for the how many years or so that yeah Patrick Beverly and like LA is ours for the next 5 years or so yeah you gotta feel bad and you gotta be thankful that they're finally getting their own arena because they can at least shed off some of that being in the shadow of the Lakers. But until this pairing works or until they get something going, yeah they're just stuck under the Lakers shadow at this point.
Yep. And honestly, like people might look at that OKC trade and be like, "Oh yeah, OKC won out." But I do think that like given the circumstances, the Clippers had to do it. Like yes, you can argue that like hindsight is always 2020, right? But back then, like Paul George was a really good player, and the Clippers they just got Kawhi Leonard, who showed that he could be the best player on a championship level team, and because SGA was more of a product or like yeah, like kind of a process. Like he wasn't necessarily developed into the player that he was today. Like it made sense for them to move it and
Hmm.
go for Paul George. But I think the
Yeah.
reason why the Clippers have just been so unfortunate is because of Kawhi's injury history. Like I do believe that like when healthy, Kawhi might have actually beaten this map squad. Like I did have the Clippers winning if Kawhi was healthy, but Kawhi wasn't, and I think that just makes a huge deal. Like would the Clippers do it if they knew that Kawhi wasn't going to be healthy? Like maybe not because that's their star player, right? And they did make a Western Conference Finals, which they've never done in their franchise history. So in some senses, like the Clippers still got a win from it. Like making a conference, like they've existed since like there was a team called the Bullets. Like they've been around since like when my grandpa might have not been alive. Like you know, so for a team like that has never touched the Western Conference Finals to at least touch the conference finals, I think like for that sort of franchise, like it's honestly a win. Like people might like in this era of like ring culture, like people are going to like undermine the Clippers, but I really do think like yeah, even making a conference finals is like something really big for them, right? It's like they're always known as like LA's younger brother, so like yeah, at least having the chance to like make a significant step in like the playoffs is something. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, other than that series, I mean, you can't say too much about their playoff history. Like, I think yeah, the Clippers and Mavs have had a few playoff series against each other already. I think the Clippers won.
Yeah,
I don't know,
Clippers
remember how
won
many they won. They
once.
won more. Yeah, they won. So if, yeah, I think they faced off 2 or 3 times. I don't know who's won more, if it's a tie, but yeah, considering that history and like yeah, it's just been disappointing. I mean, yeah, I see now what you mean. Like, yeah, definitely SGA was not. No one thought he was gonna be an MVP
Oh
candidate.
yeah, like I
Like,
was super
yeah,
surprised by that. Like I knew SGA was good, but not like this guy is probably a top 5 player in the NBA. Like I don't know if people knew that he would be like that, and probably SGA wouldn't have been like that unless if he got traded to OKC too.
exactly.
So ultimately, what do you think is your grade for the Clippers?
I mean, okay, so I'm still sticking with an F just because their history, like they've already had a few seasons of this, and you can't control injuries, but it's already been 2 seasons of that, and you can't like get it off.
Mm-hmm. That's a fair grade. Like I would even argue it. Like I was trying to be a little bit more nice to them, but yeah. Okay, now we got the glorious Denver Nuggets. Now, I have a friend that's a Denver Nuggets fan, and we've talked about this team and how they've done. Like, I like the Nuggets a lot. I was rooting for them to win the finals last year, especially since the Celtics got knocked out. And yeah, just like a lot of their players. That does not change the fact that I think this season was a disappointment for the Nuggets. Um, let's keep it real. The Nuggets were favorites to win the championship. Like a bunch of people had them to getting out at least to the finals, right? They had them running the West again and making it to the finals, and they were second round exits. Like just by that alone, they didn't meet their expectations, right? Like they for sure underperformed. Now, if you look at the game, like how they've done in the playoffs, it's like it just makes it worse, right? Like, yes, Jamal Murray was hurt, but Jamal Murray literally put up 0 points in like the first half of 2 straight games. Like that's unbelievable for a guy that shoots as much as he does, right?
Exactly. I mean that like the Nuggets decimated this Wolves team like in 5 games the last season, and I don't think the Wolves changed too much, if I remember correctly. Yeah, like they still had Gobert, they still had Jaden McDaniels, but they just somehow turned it up this season, and they it took the Wolves 7 games to beat the Nuggets, and that's respect to the Wolves. But yeah, just like you said, a lot of us, like myself, had the Nuggets winning the finals or at least making it to the finals, like a Nuggets Celtics finals, and it was pretty disappointing. And considering, I mean, the only roster change they made was like they lost Bruce Brown, who's their hustle guy, and just replaced him with Justin Holiday. But yeah, other than that, you should have still expected them to win, and you can't be disappointed in Jokic. He's dominant as usual. Jamal Murray, yeah, sure was injured, but why is he only good against the Lakers? Because I swear, like he had 22 in yeah almost every game, and in the closeout game he had 32 against the Lakers.
Yeah.
But then he's like suddenly turned trash again against the Wolves. So
Oh yeah, it's
yeah,
like it's pretty funny. Like honestly, as a Lakers hater to my core, like can I really dislike that? Like Jamal Murray, like thank you. Like I'm loving it. I'm licking up the Lakers tears right now. A lot of them are crying. I am. Please be on your D's. I will take all of your tears gladly with a lot of love. But I will say this: like the Nuggets did have a really difficult matchup. Like the Wolves are kind of built to beat the Nuggets, right? Like they're super long. Jokic is a post player, but you have Gobert who can actually like kind of do well against him. Like people were dogging on Gobert because Jokic cooked him, but it's like, dude, like what can Gobert do in those situations? Like he played pretty much these defensive like schemes perfectly. Like he did it really well one on one. It's like Jokic is a top 5 offensive player of all time. Maybe he's the best offensive player of all time. And better offense in this game of basketball will beat better defense. And Jokic was on fire for a couple of those games. I think though the thing about the Nuggets that kind of sucked is that they blew a 20-point lead in game 7. Like that is unbelievable for a team that has won the championship, right? So,
exactly.
mhm, you go.
I mean, you've expected them to have a cohesive offense, but like when you saw that string of like missed shots every time, it was just painful to watch. Like, who is this Denver Nuggets team? Like, you expect them to run their offense pretty well with the MVP or yeah, an MVP and this solid like starting lineup, but they were just pretty trash. And I mean, yeah, you gotta still like there's still a few bright spots of the season. Like you had Peyton Watson, who is a pretty good defensive guru, but he was just played off the court just because he couldn't shoot, and obviously that's one of the strengths of this Denver team. But yeah, they were much more disappointing than I thought they'd be. So yeah,
Yeah, for sure. I think for me the Nuggets got a D. Like I don't know if I would have given them an F because of like the ways some teams like have gone out, but they're like a D, D minus, definitely not a D plus. Because at least they were able to like bring it to a game 7 against the Wolves, and like if they just didn't choke a 20-point lead, they would have been in the conference finals. And like, yeah, so maybe a D minus for me. The more that I think about it, I don't know. I'm gonna give them a D, just a straight D. Yeah.
yeah, okay, yeah, I think that's fair. I was pretty nice and gave them a B, but yeah, now that I think about it, when you only flat out in the second round and you're supposed to be going to the finals, yeah, I think D's a little more fair.
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna put them in D. And now we have the Miami Heat. Oh, this is also a fun team to review. All right, take it from here.
All right. So for this one, yeah, I mean, they've always been the underdogs. So you don't have you on one like you have expectations and you don't have expectations at the same time. So it's like pretty hard to judge this team because they're pretty wild card as they've always been. Especially with the last year's playoffs. My grade right now is a C, and I'm taking into account that Jimmy Butler was injured for yeah the play-in and the first round. And yeah, like you said a while ago, they did take off a game against the Heat, but it did take them a 3-point flurry for them to do it. Like they're not usually a good 3-point shooting team, and then suddenly they just turn on the Jets and had a really good 3-point shooting team. But I I honestly didn't have too high expectations for this team. Like they just drew the best team in the first round, so you didn't expect them to beat the Celtics either. But like maybe they could have taken another game, but again, no Jimmy, so that's fine. Like Bam, being the first scorer, like scoring 20 points in every game, sure, that's a bright spot. Hero had a little struggle with like 16.8 points per game, so that's a tough one. Like you wanted him to be your six man off the bench or like a really good secondary scorer outside of Bam, but yeah, no one else on this team has been really helping. And sorry, I forget Jaime Jaquez, but yeah, other than that, they're mid. Not as mid as you wanted them to be, so I still give them a high, maybe a C plus. I raise it to a C plus right now.
Okay, I had the exact same grade as you did, like with the C, starting out. I was like, okay, they didn't have Jimmy Butler, who is obviously an extremely important player, and then they lost to the Celtics in 5, which I think a lot of people predicted. This is exactly their expectation. Like, what else? Like, they're not beating the Celtics. It's not like, right? It's like maybe if they took them to 6 or 7 games, I would have given them like a B, but like they took off 1 game from the Celtics. That's good enough for me. Like, you just met your expectation. You didn't do worse. You didn't do better. Just a straight C to me.
Yeah, that's definitely fair. And I mean, they had like pretty key losses from this offseason to the next. Like they lost Gabe Vincent, who was popping off for them in the playoffs, and Max Strus, who's one of their shooters, because Duncan Robinson has been struggling pretty lately, and he's pretty much their only shooter now. But yeah, this Heat team. Oh, they picked up Rozier this year. I forgot, but then he was injured for a bit. So yeah, you got to really think about it. Like again, there's already rumors of Jimmy Butler wanting out. Like what? I don't know. Like this team is like, uh, I guess unless playoff Jimmy comes back, like that's your only chance of making a deep run. But you gotta hope. I guess Hero and Jaime Jaquez get a little better from this season.
Okay, so where would you say like is your final grade for this team?
Hmm. Um. Okay. I don't think they're just one tier above the Bulls and Hawks. I don't know. That feels kind of disrespectful to the Heat team because they've been injured. I feel like C plus is a little nice because they had Jimmy Butler injured and they still made it this far. What do you
But
think?
they were first round exits, and they only took
That's true.
1 game off the Celtics. And to me, they are indeed like at least for this playoffs, because it's not like the Heat teams that like made it to the finals. Like if they made it to the like, for what it's worth, they were first round exit this season, and they didn't have Jimmy Butler. And like, yeah, it's not like they were in the second round or anything like that, which is the reason why I'm like comfortable giving them 1 tier more than the Bulls. I know.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, yeah, I think
You can put them C
yeah,
plus.
we can do either. I'm on the fence on that. It's
Yeah,
like
me
a
too.
really small difference. So
All right, we'll put them at. You want it's your call. Where are you putting them? It's your call.
uh man, really putting me on the spot
I
here.
am putting you on the spot.
So hmm, I still feel it's disrespectful to put them just one above the Hawks. Like I think they could be a little below the Cavs. I'm gonna go C plus
Okay,
for now.
perfect.
We can revisit it, like you said.
We can
So
revisit it. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, Pacers. Okay.
Oh,
The Pacers, so what, 6 seed, made it to the Eastern Conference Finals. I would say for this season, the Pacers deserve an A. Um, if you asked a Pacers fan, and like, do you think you're making it to the conference finals? Not a single person is going to be like, yeah, I think we're making it to the Eastern Conference Finals. No, like there was the Damian Lillard to the Bucks. There was, Joel Embiid is always there. Uh, the Knicks are a really good team. There's obviously the Celtics. Like the Pacers weren't seen as this team that was going to make it super deep into the playoffs. And then they like added like some key pieces. Like they got Siakam and a couple others, and they had a really good offense. Like they had a historically good offense actually in this playoffs. Uh, and yes, they did go through injured teams, but bro, like what are you supposed to do? Lose to the injured teams? Like no. Like the reality is that the Pacers overachieved like crazy. They were at the 6th seed and they made it to the conference finals. And yes, they got swept by Boston. Boston's a crazy good team. Like don't get it twisted. Like the Indiana Pacers might have taken a game or two off of them if they just weren't inexperienced. Boston was just a little bit more experienced. They were just some costly mistakes from their players right down the stretch, and they just out executed the Pacers, right? And it's like, okay, they have champion Drew Holiday. They had Jaylen Brown, who's always been to the conference finals. Jason Tatum, that's always been to the conference finals. And it's like, yeah, the more experienced team won in these like close game time situations. And even if they did have some blown leads, even if they did choke it down the stretch, like with a crazy 3 from Jaylen Brown, you made it to the Eastern Conference Finals when nobody expected you to. You deserve an A in my books. Like I think you healthily overachieved, even if it was an injury riddled like group. Yeah, that's my grade.
Exactly, yeah. I have the same exact grade and the same exact first, first notes on that. They're definitely overachieving. Again, yeah, you had the East, and there were still like 4 or 5 teams you could put on top of them to make the conference finals over them. And yeah, you gotta give it to them, considering Siakam only had what, half a season to gel with this team, and they were still a pretty good offense even without with them. And the Pacers still had their solid role players and good players until now. Miles Turner, the reliable stretch big, McConnell, the six man of the year, a 6 man candidate,
Dude,
or at least underrated.
McConnell,
Like
I'm gonna shout this guy out. TJ McConnell is a dog. That guy is a dog. Like, listen, I respect your game so much. Like, this guy is like, he's so small, but he just plays like he's just got the mentality, man. Like, I just like players like that. So just like a quick shout out to TJ McConnell. Like, this guy is he's got the dog in him. Like, this guy's got aura, man. He's got the aura.
exactly. Like I watched a lot of Pacers games, and dude was the fastest guy on the court. Like he has the Aaron Fox speed somehow. He has like the Chris Paul mid range. Like when you see him take like that really short fadeaway mid range jumper, it's like cash. It's like okay, it's no disrespect to Sean Livingston, who's the mid range god. Like, but dude, he was shooting it like Sean Livingston at 6'1" or 6 foot, whatever his height is. It's crazy. Like he's been their solid 6 man for so long. Like he put up 15 points per game in the Celtics series, 12 and 6 in the Knicks series. So you've got to respect him for that. And I think yeah, again, I'm going back to Siakam. He had considering he had a half a season to gel with his team and still put up like 20 points per game in every series on 50% efficiency. Sorry, field goal percentage like every series. You've got to respect that. And up to this day, I'm still pissed that the Pacers didn't foul on that damn Jalen Brown three. Like Siakam had like what 2, 3 or 4 seconds to foul him. Like sure, it was a quick pass and everything, but dude, like this, there's been many YouTube videos, be all breakdown, whatever, proven time and time again that it's so much better to foul up three instead of giving them a chance to make a three. Like yeah. And that Celtics series, yeah, like you said, it was pretty close. It just came down to a few turnovers and defensive lapses, and that's like really overachieving for them, even if they didn't win a single game off of them. And you just wish Tyrese Halliburton was like a little more aggressive. Like maybe sure, like the offense is pretty good when he's a pass first point guard, but you've seen him as a scorer, and he's pretty good at that too. Like he's put up pretty good numbers, and you just wish he was a little step higher enough. But again, that doesn't matter because they overachieved, and that's yeah, an A.
I think, yeah, I agree. I would say that, you know, the Pacers' weakness was their defense at the end of the day. Like, none of these guys are close to even as good as, like, someone like Al Horford in defense. And, like, a 38-year-old Al Horford, nonetheless. And that thing, I think, made it, like, possible for the Celtics to kind of compete. Because I would say, like, watching the game, like, I don't think the Celtics necessarily played, like, that amazing against the Pacers, right? Like, they did get into large deficits because they didn't play well. It's just at the final 3 minutes, it's just they must have probably like the nerves got to them or something like that. Like it's natural, right? Like I don't know. Like people talk about like experience being a thing, but it's really true. Like when the game is really really close, like NBA players will almost always like knock down shots, right? When they're like no pressure in practice, but in these crunch time situations, like there's slight nerves. There's like you are like overthinking or something happens and like these mistakes happen. And it's just their inexperience kind of cost them. Also, I think that's something that the Celtics did do to win, I think, game one or game two. Like they were up three and they just fouled. Because Joe Mazzulla knows that like it's just a better decision, right? And it's something LeBron has talked about in like his podcast with JJ Redick. Like you should just foul these things. Like and the Pacers did it, and Jaylen Brown made a miracle shot. Like it just happened like that. So yeah, but either way, no matter what, I think if you're a Pacers fan, you should hold your head up high because this was a great season for I think the Pacers. So
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you had Andrew Nemhard and Aaron Nesmith, I guess two guys who weren't really starting too much for the Pacers. And yeah, Aaron Nesmith was deep on the bench for the Celtics for a while. Obi Toppin only had one season of playoff experience. So yeah, you've got to give props to them for holding down the starting lineup and Toppin for the bench.
Yep, for sure. And yeah, that's why I just gonna put Pacers in A. Already did that. Now we have the Sacramento Kings. Let's see what you think.
Yeah, so ever since that series against the Warriors last year, I mean, even if they lost that in seven, I became a pretty good fan of this team. Light the beam, light the beam. But yeah, I was personally rooting for them to make the playoffs, and they just fell to the Pelicans, which is you didn't expect the Pelicans either to do pretty good this season, considering Brandon Ingram was pretty disappointing and Zion was injured. But yeah, when uh this Kings team was still pretty good nonetheless. Like Keegan Murray was a very bright spot in this team, considering he had 32 on 8 for 13 from three against the Warriors. But he did flounder against the Pelicans. But still, he's a pretty nice young guy that they have. And De'Aaron Fox is business as usual, carried with 24 and then 35 against the Pels. But yeah, this team, they had a few losses also. Uh, Crucial losses to their team. Kevin Herter got injured in the regular season. Malik Monk as well. So I my grade right now is a C, without the C plus and C minus thing. But yeah, I want to hear your thoughts now.
Okay, interesting. I actually gave the Kings a B minus. Maybe I'm being a little bit nice to them, but this is my thought process. The Kings only lost two more games than they lost two games from last year. But instead of being the third seed, they're now the the ninth seed or something like that. And they lost two key players. They lost Malik Monk, who was extremely good for them, and they lost Kevin Horter, or I don't know how to
Yeah, Kevin
yeah,
Herter.
Herter.
Yeah.
And these two players are very, very important to this team, right? And even though they kind of lost these two guys, uh, they were at least able to kind of have like a similar record to that they did last year. It's just that the West has improved dramatically in the last year, right? And like you got teams like OKC, the Mavs were really, really good. You obviously have the championship Nuggets. You have the Suns. You have the Lakers. Like you have all of these teams that are gotten better, and they kind of haven't really added like a new piece or anything like that. And they had a similar record despite the injuries, and they beat the Warriors in a play-in game. Now, against the Pelicans, they did lose to a Zion-less Pelican squad. That is true. Uh, so I think that could knock them down a grade. Like I originally said B minus because I don't know if I expected them to actually beat the Warriors. Like I thought the Warriors were gonna beat them, and obviously that didn't happen. And for a team that had like injuries to like key players, now granted Malik Monk and like these guys aren't like all-star players, but they're really good players and they're really important to the Kings. So despite the fact that they have these sort of injuries this season, like I thought like they did pretty good. Like it's unlucky that they couldn't beat the Pelicans, but like I don't know if I'm a Kings fan and I'm like extremely upset at like this season. Um, let me see. And yeah, like I guess the Pelicans, it's a little bit like hard, like because they didn't have Zion and like kind of losing to them, like they could have taken advantage of it and maybe made the playoffs. Um, let's see. Yeah, I think well with the Pelicans, like they just played a really really good game, and yeah, Kings weren't able to capitalize. So that's just kind of my notes off the top of my head. Maybe they're more of a C plus team than a B minus team, but yeah, those were my initial thoughts.
Yeah, I mean that Pelicans team. I mean, again, yeah, no Zion. You didn't really expect them to do well, and considering how they did against OKC in that first round series, they just got swept, and BI was trash. You wish the Kings could have capitalized on that, but yeah, again, those losses were pretty big considering yeah, you're 16, 17 point per game scorer in Malik Monk, and you're shooting in Kevin Herter. Yeah, and those are pretty crucial losses. And again, yeah, the Kings being a franchise known for not having playoff experience or making deep runs, and You know, it's just a little step down from last season. Like, yeah, they lost in 7 in the first round from last season, which is still a pretty bright spot for Kings fans. They're not in the lottery anymore. They don't have to worry about those damn bad draft picks, Jimmer Fredette, Thomas Robinson, all that stuff. But
Oh, but they
yeah,
could have had Luca.
right. That's one I should have gotten to. They could have had Luca, but you
Oh,
know,
that
yeah,
must. I have a couple Kings fans that I know, and they're like, I just don't understand like how a team could have ever chosen Bagley over Luca. Like Aiton, even I was like a little skeptical because but I think it just showed a huge flaw in like the way European talent was judged, and the Kings are now seeing the Mavericks go to the NBA Finals while they still can't make it to the playoffs. So that just gotta sting, man. That's just so unfortunate.
yeah. I mean, gotta hit Vlade Divac for that. You know, favorite Kings player for like, yeah, he is. But for being a front office trash guy, I don't know. Yeah, you still gotta be pretty happy as a Kings fan, anyways. Regardless, like, yeah, you'll cry over Luca not picking Luca, but again, it's yeah, hindsight is 2020. You didn't respect a 19-year-old, 18-year-old coming out of Real Madrid. Like even if he was winning MVPs back there and everything, yeah, they just didn't respect European talent as much as they do today. Like you see now what Jokic, Giannis, and Embiid, two of them from Europe and dominating now. It wasn't like that before, so yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. Like, if you told me that there was an 18-year-old kid that won MVP in like maybe the second best professional league in the world, I'd have been like, get this guy. But they didn't feel that way. Like they just thought maybe Bagley's upside was better, and it's unfortunate. But with the way the Kings are right now, like yeah, no amount of like regret or like wishful thinking is gonna bring Luca to this team. So ultimately, where do you think you rank the Kings now that we've kind of discussed them for a little bit?
Hmm. I'd like to. Can you scroll a bit? I want to see like what we have so far. I feel like a good level base. Hmm. I don't. Hmm. If they're on the same level as the Cavs or the Heat, that's pretty tough. Like, yeah, I'm in between B minus and C plus as well. I still think. Hmm. They lost two guys. You wish they would have made it further. I think I could still go C plus.
Okay,
But if you're B minus, that's cool.
I think
Yeah.
C plus is totally reasonable. I think, yeah, I was a little bit more on like the optimistic side for them. Yeah, so it's your decision. Okay, the New York Knickerbockers, fun team. Oh, the New York Knicks. The laughing stock of the East, the Clippers of the East, but not really, but
I
kind
like
of.
that nickname.
Uh, let's see. They were massively injured, and they were kind of favorites to make it to the conference finals, but they were really injured throughout, and kind of with the way the roster is constructed, they kind of had to run their players down to the ground in order to make it really competitive. But you can see how the fact that Tom Thibodeau likes to play his players a lot, that had a really big impact on the Knicks, and they just ran out of gas, and yeah, they just lost to the Pacers in the second round. I would say that considering all their injuries, like the Knicks were super injured this season. Like they lost what, three starting players or something like that. Like they lost a lot. Randall wasn't playing. Like yeah, I would say
Yeah,
that.
I think.
Mhm.
Sorry, go ahead. No, finish.
Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say like what is it? What's his name? Oh, Jalen Brunson went off. Like he's a beast. Like this guy was going crazy. Um, and ultimately, I just think the Knicks, like, they didn't like necessarily like undersell their expectations. Like, I think they did pretty good. Like, I think I gave them a B minus or something. Like, they were super injured. Like, I'm not gonna hold that against them, right? They were super injured. The Pacers were a pretty dang good team for what it's worth, and they lost to them in 7 games. And it's like, if they, if they just didn't have so many injuries, they probably could have made it to the conference finals. And like, Yeah, if you're a Knicks fan, I think you're very optimistic about next season, like especially if they manage to stay healthy. Like they're going to be like I looked at their average age and they're mostly like 26, 27, 28. They're not a particularly old team. They're mostly like just hitting their prime and if they're able to just stay healthy, they're going to actually give a pretty good fight in the Eastern Conference next year. So, getting to that second round game 7 will I think it's good experience. It's going to let them just reflect on it and just to really push for that conference finals appearance. They haven't had that in so long, and they did beat the 76ers. uh so credit to them for doing that. And yeah, I just think that for what it's worth, the Knicks exceeded their expectations. It's not an A, but like, and they didn't make it to the conference finals as people thought. But when factoring your injuries, they did pretty dang good. So B minus for me.
Okay, so apparently I was really too nice to them because I apparently gave them an A because I was counting a few things like they did this all with Julius Randle. Like, sure he was like a bad player, but he was still their all-star and like first, yeah, primary leading scorer until Brunson stepped up. Like, Brunson stepped up so much in a way, and yeah, like he's first team and he's a pretty good MVP candidate because dude was putting up what 35 and 9 against the Sixers and then 30 and 6 in the Pacers series. Like he's like one of the smallest guys on the court, and he's posting up guys, pushing them away, and like making his threes, and you've got to love what you're seeing as a Knicks fan. Yeah, I initially blamed Tom Thibodeau for all that, like playing the roster to the ground, but I see what you mean. Like that Knicks roster was like on their bench. What they just had Miles McBride. I can't remember other Knicks players right now, but yeah, Miles McBride off the bench and nothing else. Like you don't have a dependable scorer off the bench, so I see what you mean. Yeah, like they really had to play them, and yeah, there's just those really really crucial injuries. What Bojan, your one of your good bench scorers, Mitchell Robinson, your really great rim protector and a young center, and OG Anunoby, who you traded for? You lost RJ Barrett and quickly. You're one of your good bench scorers for a really good 3-and-D guy and a third option or so. Those were that might have been why also yeah I was nice to them because you've got to respect the Nova boys for what they did this season. Like Josh Hart making headlines for his rebounding and like dude's 6'4" and beating out Embiid. Miles Turner for rebounds. Like
Yeah.
dude is out hustling crazy, man. It's crazy. Like that's why I became a fan of this team. Like I respect the Nova boys and yeah, that might have been why I had a little more bias towards the A, but I could bring it back down more to a B
I think
or a B plus.
I think your argument makes me feel that the Knicks deserve like a B, just because like I do feel like they could have made it to the conference finals if not for some like really bad mistakes from like Brunson in the stretch. Like I think there was one that he tried to foul bait like or something, and then like he just lost it, and then the Pacers got the ball and they just won the game. Like I just think that like there were just some errors that really like it was unfortunate. Like they just made a couple costly errors and they just weren't able to beat the Pacers. But like, were they up even 3-2 at one point? I think they
I
were
believe
up. Yeah,
so.
so they were even up
Yeah.
3-2. And like they just weren't able to close it. So like to me, that's the reason why they get a little bit docked because they did have that opportunity even with all their injuries. But
hmm
once it went to Game 7, I was like, okay, like this Knicks team is cooked. Like they're tired, man. So,
Exactly. Like yeah, that Nemhard three for from Hail Mary was like really crazy, man. Like
mhm.
that was the next chance what to go up 3-1 I think or yeah
Yeah,
if I can
exactly.
remember yeah so that was like a really crucial like you know a really just like if it was like a really low chance to get in especially Nemhard was shooting 1 for 7 or something before that or
Hmm.
0 for 7 before that like yeah but playing those players into the ground just really cost them like you've seen it in Tom Thibodeau's teams before like Luol Deng, Derrick Rose and Joakim Noah were all like they had their careers a lot and ended a lot earlier and Derrick Rose just like floundered or like lost his touch just because of Tom Thibodeau. But yeah, again, like this Knicks team, like they could have made the finals, like conference finals. Like they weren't as definite like the Celtics were, but they still had the chance. And yeah, I'm comfortable with a B or
Yeah, I think
yeah.
I would give them a B for this. They're not like B pluses, but they definitely did pretty good this season.
Yeah,
Okay.
Jalen Brunson just had to carry man. Okay,
Yeah, Jalen
sorry.
Brunson. Yeah, I mean, I think the Knicks have a really nice future, like next year especially. So it's like I can't really like hate how this turned out for them necessarily. It's like a little
Yeah,
bit heartbreaking for the Knicks, but like honestly, I think you're very optimistic about this season.
yeah.
Okay, the Los Angeles Lakers. Boo, disgusting.
um, y- are you F already? I'm already an F on this. I want. What? I just want to know your grade.
Oh, you want to know my grade, dude? I think I gave them like a D minus or something.
Dude, oh
Where
my
is it?
god. No, I'm just pissed at the Lakers, dude. Like, I mean, sure they didn't change their roster too much. Like, yeah, they still have D'Lo, Austin Reeves, and Rui, and the
Honestly,
two LeBron Davis.
they
But
deserve an F. I think. Yeah, I think I'm with you. They deserve an F.
yeah,
This is a
like, sure,
horrible.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, dude. Like, even if LeBron and Anthony Davis are still carrying, like, dude, when you still can't get more than one game off the Nuggets, it just hurts. And like,
Oh yeah.
you really wanted D'Lo to be your third scoring option, but dude just put up stinkers, man. Like 0 points in game three. Like, I don't care if he just took 7 shots. Like, take
Gotta do
gotta do
more.
the Dion Waiters mentality. Shoot more. Nah,
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
I
But
think.
like, I mean,
Yeah. Go for it. Yeah.
I didn't have much more on that. But yeah, like,
Well,
you know those.
hmm
I'm done. Sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I'm just gonna say, as a Celtics fan, I'm gonna put them an A plus because this is the epitome of the perfect Lakers season. Choking a 20-point lead, 0 pointers, coach drama. Like I'm here for it. Like the meme that like, oh, I'm gonna be here no matter what. Like that's me right now. I am feasting. I am happy. This is the Lakers roster that I'm looking for. You know, I gave them a D minus because it is the Nuggets, and the Nuggets do historically own them. But it's like they literally could have been up 3-0 if they just didn't choke it. Like they blew a 20-point lead, came to two like game winners by Jamal Murray. Like, bro, how could you not even like pull one of these games? Like it could have easily been 2-2 going back to the Lakers. But then there's all this like coach drama with Darvin Ham that comes out afterward. Like it's just I think if I didn't have any of this drama going on, I would have just given them like a D minus because you know they're up against the Nuggets. But like man, they were like just the way they went out is just so pathetic. It's just so sad. Like I don't know if I'm being biased because I don't like the Lakers, but like honestly, I think it's pretty sad. Like if you're a Lakers fan, like you'd be pretty like shattered. Like Jamal Murray scoring two game winners after not having a good like series. Like Jamal Murray wasn't very good this entire like series. This playoff run in general, he wasn't good. He just scored two winners on the Lakers. That's gotta hurt. And especially when you consider like Anthony Davis is a very good player. LeBron James is a very good player. They should have at least a squad that can at least compete with the Nuggets. Like, and LeBron's getting older. Like, where are the Lakers gonna do? Like, they can't make splash trades. They can't make massive free agency moves. Like, they won't be able to get super draft capital. Like, what are they gonna do? Like, draft Bronny James to make LeBron happy? Like, is that what you're gonna do? Sell out for a 39-year-old LeBron? Like, it's like this team is in almost no man's land. And it's like, yes, they won the 2020 ring, so like it's kind of worth it in some ways. Like, I could say whatever I want about the bubble ring. Like, the reality is that they won the championship. So it's not like the Lakers like move was bad because they did win. It's just now that they're here, it's a terrible location to be in. Like they're not gonna ever be good to like really compete against these other teams, I think. And their core stars are getting older. Anthony Davis is very injury prone. You were lucky to have him in the series. And yeah, you're kind of worried about how it's going to be next season. And there's, coaching drama once again. Like it's a bit of a side tangent, but I think that whoever is trying to coach for the Lakers should honestly refuse it. Like if you're a coach that's coaching for the first time, I don't think the Lakers is it. You have LeBron there. Like you have LeBron, you have like AD, you have these older stars that are like, yeah, man, like it's kind of scary. Like, and have the whole attention of the national media, like what is gonna happen if you just don't do as well the first season there? You're gonna get crucified. And if you're really trying to make a hunt for a solid NBA coaching career, you're gonna get cooked if you're coaching the Lakers as your first assignment. Like I don't know who can coach the Lakers. Like you might need a Spo or like Popovich level coach to like be able to hold down the mental pressure of like having this job. Like it's tough. But yeah, I don't know. For me, the Lakers D- to F. Do you have any other
Yeah,
thoughts?
yeah, I have a few. So I don't know if it's really confirmed because it's not all over the web, but I thought I saw like JJ Redick confirmed for head coaching, and dude, that's crazy. Like I know he's an NBA player, but like yeah, even if he's like pretty solid in his podcast, like dude, the Lakers and their head coaching issues has just been it's been crazy. Like even if LeBron's like the quote unquote head coach or whatever, like this team's a mess. And you know, considering what back in 2020 when you got Anthony Davis and you still had LeBron in his prime, you thought they would have dominated a lot more than they did today. Like they only have one ring to show for it from 2020, and they split up that team so quick that you know you just wonder why the front office didn't continue with that 2020 Lakers team. Like, sure, they were some of them are old, like Dwight Howard, a little bit of JaVale McGee, Rajon Rondo, but still, like that team was working, and they just broke it up so quickly. And like now, LeBron has no help around him other than like an okay Austin Reeves. Like he's still not consistent enough to be your primary third option. Like he's been praised too much as like you know he's because he's in the Lakers. He's a white boy. Like he's gonna be praised a lot, but he's just not been like you thought LeBron was gonna hand the reins to Anthony Davis too. Like he's getting old, and now Anthony Davis, who's like a really good defensive and offensive player, like he's gonna carry this team, and he's still LeBron's still here having to put up 30-point games and run down the floor, and no one else is there. But yeah, it's really disappointing, and I'm still at F for that.
Yeah. So ultimately, where do you think you rank the Lakers? D or F?
I'm still F,
Okay.
considering they've had this pair for a
Cool.
while.
I'm keeping them there. All right. The next team we have is the Orlando Magic. And let me just say, I actually have very good opinions about the Orlando Magic. Like, I think the Orlando Magic deserve a B plus. And, you know, yes, they're first round exits, but I think once again, you need context for these exits, right? The Magic are an extremely young team. You look at their roster, Paolo Banchero is like 21, like almost their entire roster is like second year players, third year players, or rookies. That's a very, very young team. And the fact that they were able to go and put up a fight against the Cavaliers, that's a huge thing. Like with younger players, home games are going to be a lot more influential on how they do, especially because they don't have like the experience of pressure yet. And you see that in the series that the Magic pretty much won all their home games, they lost all their away games. And I think this is a very key experience and just kind of like, yeah, something that you can build off of. Your star player, Paolo, balled out. This guy is here to stay. Like, you found a guy that could be the guy. They, yeah, I think they just straight up, like, exceeded expectations by just being here to me. Like, the Magic are never a team that I'm like, oh, they're gonna be like this super good team. But no, they came up, they came to play, they went to Game 7 against the Cavs, who I think most people picked the Cavs to win in like 6 or 7. And yeah, they did a very good fight. Paolo Banchero played very well. If you're a Magic fan, you're super super happy about this season, right? This is like the epitome of like baby steps, right? Like you've got a young team, you've got their first touch of playoff experience. They got 7 games also in the playoffs, right? You got that sort of experience. You have a very, very bright future ahead. You have these guys locked under contract if you really wanted to. There's just so much to build from here. And I think if you're, yeah, once again, if you're a Magic fan, you're very optimistic. Next season, you're like, dude, I feel like we can maybe make the second round. Like, I feel like in 3 years, 4 years, they might make it to the conference finals. Like, you're thinking like that. And I think this is the exact steps that you need in order to get there in the future. So to me, the Magic are a B plus.
Exactly. They're a very young team, and like all our expectations for the Magic were just very low at the beginning. Like they had a really hot start to the regular season. They beat the Celtics in one game out of three, which, it's the Celtics, and you expect them to win a lot, but the Magic took a game off of them. But anyways, yeah, going back to the playoffs, yeah. Again, Cleveland was favored in this matchup. Like no one, I honestly I didn't think it was gonna go to seven because yeah, again they're an inexperienced team and like, uh, but Bankero was just that guy, man. And Franz Wagner was okay other than game two and game five. Like he shot 5 for 17, 3 for 11. But you still got to be happy as a Magic fan to even get the fifth seed. Like no one thought they'd get the fifth seed either.
Agreed.
And they drew a decent matchup, which again they were not favored to win, but still took it to seven. So I definitely go B plus, or I forgot what your grade
Yeah,
was.
B plus is exactly what I have.
B plus.
Yeah. And
All right. Yeah.
one other thing to mention is like Donovan Mitchell's a dog. Like this guy's really good, and when he's really on it, he's a top 10 player in the NBA. So like the Magic should pat their like backs for taking this sort of team to 7 games. I think.
Exactly. Like Donovan Mitchell has had playoff experience, and he's that dog. So again, yeah. Even if, yeah, I still respect the Magic for taking them to 7.
So yeah, I don't know. There's not much else to add, so we'll continue on with
Yeah.
the Dallas Mavericks. Ooh, this is. I want to see what you think because, yeah,
Yeah, I know. They went up against your Celtics and like
yeah,
whatever, but I mean, honestly, yeah. First my grade is an A just because again, I didn't have them going to the finals. That was the Nuggets. I probably had them bouncing out the second round or third round or conference finals at most just because Kyrie, like even if he had a phenomenal season, like the narratives around him, like he's been he's had team chemistry issues, but we all know that was debunked, and he's just really a good guy at this point. So you gotta feel good for Kyrie, and he had a lot of redemption this season. Um, I might have made too much of my notes on the finals, so let me make sure of that. But anyways, I'll just continue. So yeah, Luka, phenomenal season as usual, MVP candidate. Maybe got robbed, you don't know, but regardless, you've got to be happy. You don't care about that because the Mavs made the finals. I don't care if they lost in 5. I don't care if they went down 3-0. They made the finals, and that those front office pickups at the trade deadline, Gafford and PJ Washington, you gotta love it. Like they panned out a lot better than you thought, and they solved the problems that the Mavs were really struggling with. Like you had Dwight Powell starting at center for a lot of the time, Tim Hardaway Jr. at the forward. But now you have Derek Jones Jr., PJ Washington, and Gafford to hold it down, and you're a lot happier that you can throw those scrubs to the bench. I'm sorry, THA and Powell, but like you just got to be happy that Lucas has a lot more help now. Like Gafford, like I watched, like I'm a Westbrook fan, so I saw him a lot on the Wizards, and I knew he was like a really good rim protector, lob threat, and I'm glad that Luka finally has that lob partner, and also Derek Jones Jr. by the way, and PJ Washington has been a pleasant surprise because, again, both Gafford and Washington came from two of the worst teams in the East, the Wizards and the Hornets. And PJ Washington, even though, he's not like a standout or anything, he was dependable for a few games. He just missed a few crucial threes in the finals, which hurt. But, you still got to be happy with his performance. And Dante Exum, an underrated pickup. Like, he was never a three-point shooter before, and now he's shooting 40% from 3. And you've got to love that. And finally, you can't forget Derek Lively. Like, dude lost his mother, and he's like putting up double doubles here and there. And he's like playing a lot. There's a lot of games where he's playing more minutes than Gafford, in fact, even though he's off the bench. So you really got to love what this Mavs team has done. And maybe you run it back, maybe get rid of finally THA and Powell. But other than that, that's an A for the Mavericks for me.
okay. I'm a Dallas Mavericks hater, I'm a Luka hater, and a Kyrie hater, so they get an F for me. Screw this team, screw this roster. I hope that the Mavericks never touch the NBA Finals again. Screw this goddamn team. No, I'm just kidding. I think, it's true that I don't like Luka. I think he's maybe one of my least favorite players in the NBA. And I actually don't dislike Kyrie that much. I know a lot of Boston fans do. But regardless of my bias, I think the Mavericks actually deserve an A+ for this season. And that might sound strange, like why am I giving them the same like grade as the Celtics, even though the Celtics won the championship? because the Mavericks were never destined. Like nobody thought that they would be here, right? It's like let's keep it real. People thought that they were gonna lose to the Clippers. People thought they were gonna lose to uh, OKC. People thought that they were gonna lose to the Wolves, and they beat every single one of them. They made it out of the difficult Western Conference, and they made it to the finals. And like just by that alone, I think yeah they deserve an A+. Like they're the fifth seed. They made these timely roster movements that really like address some of the issues that they had, and they honestly just went up against a really historic Boston team. It's just unlucky because maybe if they played like the Heat last year, Luka Doncic would be a champion right now. He might straight up be an NBA champion, but he went up against a 64 win Boston Celtics team that was like how do you beat these guys, right? Like you have 5 players on the floor that can both play defense at a high level and shoot threes at a high level. Not to mention, like, that's without Kristaps Porzingis. Kristaps Porzingis is a 20-point per game scorer that can stretch as a 7-2 center. Like, what do you do against this team, right? And it's like, I think, like, a lot of people are going to give Doncic flack because his defense in the finals was, let's keep it real, trash. It was horrible. Like, this guy was a traffic cone, okay? But none of this is, like, yes, this is fair criticism, but let's not get it twisted. Luka Doncic did whatever he could to win this like series. Like he showed up. He really showed up. The person that should be criticized is Kyrie Irving. He did not have a good series, right? And simply Luka Doncic is only 25. Like I don't know if people realize how young Doncic is. He's younger than Tatum. He just turned 25. He's clearly not a choker. Like he knows how to rise to the occasion. He just has a couple issues on the defensive end, and he's a really dang good player. And like if you're a Mavs fan, like you should be proud of this team. Your team went through a gauntlet. If you guys won maybe just 2-3 more games, you guys might have one of the greatest runs in NBA history in terms of like playoff difficulty. And it's just unfortunate that you guys ran into a very loaded Celtic squad. It's like I'm not gonna hold that against Luka Doncic, right? And so despite the fact that they were the losers, they went out in 5 against the Celtics, I think they deserve an A+. Like, if you told me that the Mavs were going to make it to the NBA Finals after last season, I would have been like, bro, you're out of your mind. Like, Luka Doncic missed the playoffs. Like, he was the 10th seed. And suddenly, he's in the NBA Finals. Like, that's a huge progress in the right direction. And even going off, like, that stuff, if you think about Doncic, like, and his happiness, right? The Dallas Mavericks did their job. They got like Kyrie Irving that nobody wanted, and they managed to, make this cool pairing with Luka and Kyrie, and they, Luka touched the finals, man. Like he's gonna stay with the Dallas Mavericks. Like that's something that they had to address, right? Like, is Doncic happy? And they managed to do all of this stuff. So like, yeah, I think when I consider that, despite the fact that I don't like Luka, I would give them an A+.
Yeah, and he again, like you said, he did it all. Like you see like people criticizing him for like not going after rebound like down 20. Like dude was carrying and he was tired from like he has to carry on offense. That's why he can't do so well on defense. But yeah. And again, like when you're talking about the Mavericks not being favored in every series and then still making it out, and then especially dominating the Timberwolves, you've really got to give them their props because again, they only had one season to gel. Oh, like one and a half seasons of gel? Because, yeah, sorry, half a season. No, but like, okay, half a season with PJ and Gafford, 1.5 seasons with Kyrie.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, a half a season with these 3, with this new roster, you've really got to be happy that, again, their progress from the 10th seed to the finals. So,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think one other thing is just like, I think a lot of people hate on Kyrie for like, yeah, like, he did Boston kind of dirty, but like, honestly, I don't know. Like, I don't know if like my hatred for Kyrie even goes that deep. Like, yeah. And also just like, I think there's clear issues about like Doncic was injured during this whole finals. Like, I don't think people even think about this. Like, this guy was he had to take pain injections because of how much he was like hurting. Like, this guy was hurting like crazy, and he still showed up. Like, these people are gonna go after Doncic and about this narrative just because he lost in the finals. And I'm like, guys, I don't like Doncic, but you have to be objective about him, right? Like, you can't suddenly make up stupid narratives just because he's lost, right?
Yeah, exactly. And he was like he had what 1 or 2 games where he scored 20 in the first quarter. Like dude was carrying, and he had to take a lot of step back threes because his spacing was is kind of trash. Like Derek Jones Jr. and PJ Washington weren't shooting so well, so he really had to carry the load. And you have to give him your props, and you have to respect him for being that top 3 or so MVP candidate that he has been for the past few years.
Mm-hmm. And just, I guess, a final thing is like the Celtics are probably the one team that could absolutely guard the Mavericks. Like they just have the personnel to just completely counter everything that Dallas wants to do, which is like it's just again, I just think the Mavericks are unlucky. Like the Celtics team has four defenders that could guard Luka Doncic 1-on-1. Even Al Horford can maybe guard Luka Doncic 1-on-1. And that completely shuts down any of the way that they play because usually Doncic is so good 1-on-1, he goes inside to the paint. They have to draw two because otherwise he's just going to get a bucket. And then he finds the open guy in the corner and they shoot a three and they boom, like they get a three. But in this series, they could guard Luka Doncic 1-on-1 and then they had like they have such good perimeter players that they just shut down their corner threes. And then it's just like, okay, what do the Mavs have after that? It's so hard. And big shout out to people like Lively, who's a rookie. If you are a rookie, like it's hard for you to perform in the NBA finals. Like the nerves are gonna be there. You're gonna make silly mistakes because you're going up against more experienced teams. Like again, I don't fault any of these things. Like you have to come from a place of understanding. So yeah, where do you
Exactly.
rank the Mavericks?
Yeah. Well, there's no A plus, but if there was A plus, but
Oh,
since
there
we
is an
don't
A
have,
plus.
I just there is.
Yeah.
I go A plus. I go A
Okay.
plus.
Yeah. I would agree. It's great season from the Mavericks. Like I have a clap for you guys. Okay, the Milwaukee Bucks. Oof. Oh, I wonder what you're gonna give this team.
Yeah. So just looking at the playoffs, considering Giannis was injured for a lot of it and Lillard got injured towards the end of it, you want to give them an F because again they are a dominant Eastern Conference team, but you know they still had their iffies with the coaching problems with Doc Rivers and what they fired Adrian Griffin at the start of the season, even though they were okay. This team had a little drama, and you still expected them to do pretty well, and it was disappointing that they went out to a team that you didn't even expect the Pacers, who you didn't even expect to probably even make it out the first round either. I mean, that's with Giannis though. So I currently have a D for their grade.
I think. Let's see. I think I had a similar grade as you did. I don't know if I put them. Oh, I put them C minus actually. And I think my justification was they didn't have Giannis, they didn't have Dame. They took the Pacers to 6 games, and it's like it's disappointing because of the Drew trade. But like, when your key player, your best player, like a multiple time MVP is not on your team, it's gonna make the game so much harder. And Dame did play like decently when he was in there. And it's really funny because Bobby Portis had like a legacy game. Like this guy just dropped like 30 points or something. And it's just you can see that the Bucks are not as good defensively, but I don't know. Like when I knew that the Bucks didn't have Giannis, I actually picked the Pacers to win the series. So for me, that's maybe the reason why I had them in like C, like the C tier, even though they did bounce in the first round, just because of the fact that Dame didn't play and Giannis didn't play, because that team is very two-player heavy, and after that, it's like okay, like there's a personnel gap.
Yeah, that's pretty fair. I mean, considering you gave up your best perimeter defender in Drew Holiday, like they're saying they gave the Celtics the championship. Anyways, yeah, and then you have a backcourt of Lillard and Malik Beasley or Pat Connaughton, or like that's a really bad defensive backcourt. You're gonna lose to a team that's really good on offense in the Pacers, and you've got to be happy that Chris Middleton redeemed himself after being injured for so long. Like he scored 24 points per game in that Pacers series. You've got to be happy with that still. And Bobby Portis, yeah, like you said, had a good 6 man of the year campaign. So considering again, yeah, all those injuries, and still taking 2 games from the Pacers. Yeah, I'll raise my grade to, uh, yeah, C minus, D plus. Yeah, whatever you feel.
Let's see. D plus or C minus? I would probably give them a D plus. But yeah, what do you think? You're the guy that went first.
um, hmm. Put them up. Hmm. I think D plus is fine.
Okay, D plus he
Yeah.
goes. And oh, this is your team, so I will let you take the wheel for this one once again.
Thank you for that. Yeah. So, OKC fans stuck with them even after they lost Westbrook. And you've first of all, I'm gonna give them an A. Maybe with the pluses and minuses, I maybe bump it down to an A minus. But considering they are one of the youngest teams, I think the youngest team in the NBA, sorry, and they still took the finals team to 6 games. Just wow! Like you have your Shea, who you never expected to be an MVP candidate, like we talked about a while ago, and all of a sudden he's here like leading the youngest team to the second to almost the conference finals. You've got to really be happy with that, and you got to be happy again that Jalen Williams also stepped up a lot more. He did have his moments in this Maverick series and he floundered a bit, but you still got to be happy with what he did for the season and just the Chet Holmgren addition. Like he was injured for the rookie season and all of a sudden just comes here second on the rookie of the year race. Like you've got to be happy that he's also redeemed himself from that rookie season injury. Like this Dallas series kind of just proved that they need a little more rebounding because Chet is just gonna get bodied there, and their power forwards they're playing like Kenrich Williams at center, power forward, and Jalen Williams who's like 6'4", 6'5". Like you don't have the personnel for that rebounding against like Daniel Gafford and Derek Lively, but the fact that you took a team with 2 of the best closers in the league to 6 games, you've got to be happy with that.
I totally agree with everything that you said. Like the Thunder, I gave them an A. The only stuff that I had was just like Josh Giddey. This guy is get this guy off my court, please. What was I seeing from this guy? Like this guy was a minus like 20 in like 3 minutes of play. Like oh my gosh, he was so bad. It's
I know,
just
right? Like
yeah.
I was just puzzled that he was starting for like almost all the series. Like even if he had those 2 trash games in the first 2 games, and he was still starting after that. Like, dude, get this guy off the court. Like I don't care if the allegations are false or not. Like he just does not pair well with SGA at all. Like yeah, get him off.
Yeah, like basketball, like whatever the off court stuff, I don't like. Is irrelevant to how he plays on the court. And on the court, this guy is practically unplayable. And I'm surprised he kept on starting. Like I was very confused on why like this coach was, why he was, yeah, playing Giddey when he was very clearly the worst player on the field. And one of my friends said like they should probably trade Giddey when his stock value is high, and I do still think that like yeah, his stock value did tank a little bit, but if you're the Thunder, I think you can move on from Giddey. Like flip him for like I think OKC would benefit heavily from yeah, like any 3 and D player or like someone that's like really like you have Chet Holmgren who's gonna be better. Like they're honestly like a miniature like Celtics kind of with the way their roster is built. Yeah, so like getting maybe like a really good like lockdown wing defender might be a really good move. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, if you're a Thunder fan, I think you're so happy with this season. Yes, it's disappointing that you lost to Luka Doncic, and in a very like they could have gone to 7 games if not for the unlucky foul, right? And
Right.
again, if you lose second round as the first seed to the eventual NBA finalists, like it's only so bad, and it's not like people were saying like I think that I saw a narrative that like the Thunder are like the worst 1 seed. Like shut up, guys! Like we've literally seen 1 seeds lose to the 8th seed. Like didn't you remember when the Bucks literally lost to the 8th seed Heat? Like do people not remember that? Like so with all of this, like No, OKC fans should be superbly happy with this. They got a good playoff run with SGA as their, guy. They took a very good Mavs team to 6 games, almost 7, and maybe who knows? Maybe they would have even pulled out the conference win if they just hold on to that game 6 lead. Yeah, just no other thoughts. Just Thunder's an A to me.
Exactly. Yeah.
I'll just put there. I think we're both in agreement. So okay, Pelicans. Dang it, this is a pretty hard team for me to rank. I just gave the Pelicans a straight seed. Like they're just mid. Like they Zion was injured. They couldn't get a game off of OKC, but they're like first round exits. Like I think everybody just predicted the Thunder to like win in 4 or 5. Like if maybe Zion was healthy, I would have expected them to be a little bit more competitive. But it's like okay, like they're just outmatched. Like OKC's a better team. Like I just put them straight C tier.
That's true. I might have been a little harsh because I gave an F, but yeah, you forget that Zion was like, yeah, injured for a lot of that, and I probably gave that grade because Brandon Ingram was a lot more disappointing than you could have thought. Like even if he's the second scorer usually, like you know him as a really good scorer, and you just wish he did a lot better because like what he put up 12, 18, 19, and 8 especially in the closeout game, like that sucks. And then you have CJ McCollum who's like always, I guess he's still known as that. The second fiddle to Damian Lillard when they were on the Blazers together, but he just put up 7 points on 3 for 8 against the Sacramento Kings, even though they won that game. And then versus OKC, like he's just okay, like 20, 15, 16, and 20 in those 4 games. But yeah, they could like OKC again, like yeah, they were a dominant team, so I guess you can say you could have still expected them to sweep the Pelicans, especially with Zion injured. But you would have loved to see Brandon Ingram be a lot better than he was. Like. And I think they could use a true point guard. Like CJ McCollum isn't really the point guard they want him to be. Like they could use Lonzo Ball, like who they've had before, but
Yeah.
it's a shame.
Unironically, it's true. Like I think the Pelicans just got their weakness exposed in this series. Like they just don't have like a guy to like really create, and they were sending like players at Brandon Ingram because he's obviously their number one, and CJ is not necessarily like. I don't think he's a number 2. Like I don't think McCollum at this point is like good enough to be the second best player on your team. Like he probably has to be like your third or fourth best player, right? And they didn't have a very like Zion would have changed the game dynamic so dramatically because I don't know if Chet Holmgren or like these guys could guard Zion 1-on-1. But for someone who's more lengthy and tall and like in like Chet can kind of sit in the paint and like force this guy to take like ridiculously difficult shots, and it's just like I don't know. I think the Pelicans just they don't really have the firepower. OKC was the first seed. They have an MVP candidate. Like yeah, it's true. Like maybe Ingram could have played a bit better, but like I just think is what I expected.
Yeah, pretty much their only bright spots this year are Herb Jones and Trey Murphy. Herb Jones being all defensive first team or second team, and that was like I respect his defensive prowess, and like he's been really helpful on that end because the Pelicans just don't have that perimeter defender. And then Trey Murphy being a lot more aggressive from 3. Like you like to see that. But again, yeah, just another disappointing season that, could have been better if Zion was there, but still. Yeah.
Yeah. What would you say is your final grade for the Pelicans?
So I'd raise it more to, let's see, maybe more of a D or D plus. You said you were C, right?
Yeah. I think I'm definitely more leaning toward C because Milwaukee Bucks were like, yo, you guys are first round exits, but you guys were also like favorites to like kind of win the East this season.
That's true. Yeah.
Versus like the Pelicans. Nobody was like, Pelicans, I think you guys are NBA finalists. Like no one's thinking that.
Yeah.
So,
I could go for
yeah, so
I could go for a C.
Yeah, I would say for me, I would say relative to their expectations, the New Orleans Pelicans did exactly what I thought they were gonna do, like straight mid. Okay. Oh, I can't wait to talk about the Sun, but 76ers take the floor.
Whew, okay, yeah. So as a pure Embiid hater, foul merchant.
Oh, dude, me too. Screw this guy. Foul merchant.
Yeah. Like I mean, he still had an okay season. Like he was injured a lot, but for him to redeem himself after the last few regular season games and still be a somewhat dependable. Not the MVP center that we know him to be. MVP, fluke MVP, whatever. Anyways, sorry, bias is getting into me. Like you still are happy that Tyrese Maxey was very good without Embiid or with an injured Embiid in the lineup. Like the Knicks were still like a grinded out team, and they had like Hartenstein to combat Embiid, so they had some of the personnel to guard Maxey with DiVincenzo and everything, but yeah, that Knicks series and 76ers series is pretty exciting. Like Maxi scoring 40, 50, and yeah, carry that OT comeback in game 2 with 46. Like, just wow. Like, you've got to be happy that despite losing James Harden, and you thought he was gonna be pretty good for you guys, and then him still being disappointing on the Clippers, you've got to be happy with that. But one thing I'm still puzzled with is why I'm sorry, I'm not supposed to swear. Why do they still have Tobias Harris? Like, dude put up 0 points in a closeout game, and like those Tobias Harris over me by Jimmy Butler, like those it's still justified up to this point. Like, you're paying this dude a mega huge contract, and he's like you're supposed to be your third leading scorer, and he's just been trash. And they still haven't moved on from him until now. It's like 76ers are quite an interesting but hateable team.
I'm just gonna say whatever you want, like no filter. Still be racist.
Okay. Okay, just make sure.
But yes, this son of a gun, Tobias Harris, is making $180 million, like over 5 years. This guy, this dog rat of a player who drops 0 point, like at least Klay Thompson isn't making like that sort of money. No, but this Tobias Harris fella, what does this guy do? Like, this guy is doing cardio on the court. He is paid millions to run around the court and do cardio. This guy provides nothing offensively. He does nothing defensively. He is a weakness, and he just eats up money from the 76ers. Like this guy is just, he must have had a gun to like Maury or whoever the heck the GM of the 76ers right now is. Like, he must have had him to gunpoint when he signed that new contract. He must have been like, bro, if you don't get me to sign, like, I'm gonna shoot you. Like, this, whatever the heck he did in this, like, I don't know, like, bro, Tobias Harris, if you're listening right now, please give me the phone number to your agent, because whatever he did is probably one of the biggest heists of in NBA history that I've seen in the last 10 years. Like, your agent deserves like 90% of the credit for how much money you made. Like, Tobias Harris had one good season. Like, I think he was on the Clippers or something, and then he got traded, and then they just paid him like as if he was a superstar level player, when clearly he's never been a superstar level player. And think about the fact that you chose Tobias Harris over Jimmy Butler. Like, imagine being a 76ers fan, knowing that Jimmy Butler, a guy who's taken to his team to 2 NBA finals, is not taken over a guy who's scored zero. Like, I could have been on the court and I would have scored 0, man. This 5'7" Asian guy would have scored 0 points, the same amount of points as Tobias Harris. That's how impactful he was on the NBA court.
I know, right? Like, you've got to be really, really sad as a 76ers fan. Like, I mean, on one hand, like, Maxi's been pretty good. Like, you got him for a late first-round pick. And a fun fact, if you didn't know, like, the 76ers got that pick for Maxi only because Mike Muscala made a buzzer beater in the bubble. Like, really obscure fact, but, like, to get a dependable second scorer from a late first-round pick is pretty good. But on the other hand, yeah, you still kind of wonder sometimes, like, Jimmy Butler was pretty good for the 76ers team. Like, they took the Raptors to 7 in 2019, and off a freaking bounce shot in the corner, fading away, Embiid still contesting him. Like, the 76ers could have, like, they have a really a different, interesting alternate universe path. Like, if Simmons is still an all-star, if he didn't miss that damn layup, like, there's so many what ifs in 76ers history, like, that the process and everything, like, you wonder what would happen. Like, you should still be happy now, though, that you have like an MVP caliber center and you're a dependable second scorer. But yeah, like, this season is you want to get against the Knicks team and Embiid was injured. Like, all right, that's all right, I guess.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think the 76ers, like Tyrese Maxey obviously is a really bright point for the Sixers squad because he's a stud. Like, he's a good player. But, like, and I guess the other thing is because Tobias Harris does have an expiring contract, that means like you can kind of go after somebody in free agency. Like, you do have a lot of space that just opened up for you. That's dead contract gone. And if I'm the 76ers, I'm never paying this guy money ever again. Like, let this guy walk to whatever dumb team that's going to pay him, like, big bucks. Because if there is a respectable franchise out there, like, they shouldn't pay him anything. Like, I don't know. I feel like one issue with a lot of teams is like they feel so pressured to like pay a guy like money that they don't deserve, and yeah, you just have these situations like, especially if you're like a rebuilding team or like something like that, you can't lock yourself into these bad contract situations. You only pay it if you think you can win in like the next 5 years. Like, Michael Porter Jr. for the Denver Nuggets is technically quote unquote overpaid, but if you win a championship ring, all of that goes out the window because it's worth it, right? But for the 76ers, they didn't win a championship, nor were they ever close to winning a championship. And yeah, it's just dead weight that's at least being relieved. So yeah, I mean, for me, I think I put the 76ers at like a C minus just because Embiid wasn't fully healthy and the Knicks were favored in this. But I don't know. If you're thinking about it from a grandiose picture, like, oh, dude, this season's like an F, bro. Like, it's a D. It's a horrible season if you're thinking about that big picture. But just for this playoffs and my expectations, I would have given like a C minus.
I'm a little more C just because Maxi is like a lot better than you thought, and like he could like when he was paired with James Harden and Embiid, like he was still that guy, like and now he's even taken a step higher, like to be dependable when Embiid is gone. So I'm cool with C minus.
I'm down for C. I think C is, very fair when you consider like 76ers were injured and they went up against the Knicks. Okay, now for my favorite team on this tier list, the Phoenix freaking Suns. My absolute, I'm licking my lips right now. This is gonna be so fun for me to talk about. You're telling me that you guys traded for who? Bradley Beal, and something you guys are tied. Like, you guys were third in odds in the season. You guys were like plus 600 behind the Celtics and the Bucks or something like that. And you guys were first round exits. And not only were you first round exits, you guys were first round exit sweeps. Kevin Durant, you're a fraudulent player. Your rings have no weight. Your rings are just as real as pyrite. You guys, it is fool's gold. Because anything that you've done outside of the Golden State Warriors, where you literally hopped on the bus to win a ring, has been nullified and irrelevant. You haven't done anything in your career to win anything outside of the Golden State Warriors. You just came along for the free A+ on the project. That's what you did. And, it's being proven right now. You haven't led a team to any NBA Finals ever since. Yes, you were unlucky with the Bucks, but, too bad. And now you're getting swept. You got swept. Like, people had you guys beating this team. No, you got swept. SWEPT by this team. You guys, just what can I say?
Yeah, I mean, okay, well, yeah, as an OKC fan since 2012, like I was a Kevin Durant fan, and then he, Snake, he left. I've grown to respect him a little bit more, but deep inside, what you were ranting about as against Durant, like, dude, I still love hearing that because I hate Durant deep inside still. Like, yeah, that Brooklyn series, like, that roster construction was still pretty bad. Like, outside of Kyrie and KD and injured James Harden, he had no one. But yeah, so. Booker and Durant were still those dependable scorers we know them to be, but as we know, like ISO ball with 2 or 3 guys doesn't always work out, and like, sure, yeah, Devin Booker was great, Kevin Durant was his usual, but Bradley Beal was really disappointing, dude. Like, to have a max contract locked down for a few years, and you traded him for Chris Paul, like, and then he scored 9 points in a closeout game, 4 for 13. You've really got to be disappointed as a Suns fan.
Absolutely. And that's the thing about, like, there were talks about Beal coming to the Celtics because he's, like, really good friends with Jason Tatum, but Beal does not play defense, and that's the biggest hubris of this Suns team. It's like, they cannot play defense to save their lives. Like, I think, let me check. Suns, like, I should have written this down, but Like if you check like the Phoenix Suns stats for like how good their defense was, their defensive rating is like 13. It's not very good. And you know, I'm going to put it this way. Anthony Edwards feasted on these guys. He brought out a platter, a knife and a fork to eat on these guys. Like he was unstoppable against them. And they got killed on the boards. Like what is Nurkic going to do against these guys? Who the heck is Nurkic on the defense? Like, yes, he's decent on the offense, but this guy is in a forget traffic code. This guy might as well not exist on the floor. He is how tall to do what? Nothing. You know when they say like tall for nothing, like this guy is literally the embodiment of that on the defensive end. He just doesn't play defense, and the Suns aren't deep, and I think this Suns roster kind of showcases, I think, the death of this big three idea that you can win with like three really, really strong players and a very weak supporting cast. I don't think you could do that anymore. I think.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
Finish. Sorry.
Sorry. I was just gonna say that like that only worked in maybe with the Miami Heat and like the old Boston Celtics because the role players were not as good as 2024 role players. Like you have players that are able to shoot threes, you have players that are able to play really good defense that are role players now. The bar I think for role players has risen dramatically. So you just can't win without these guys helping out.
Yeah, I mean, I knew they were kind of cooked from the start ever since I saw that bench. Like, what, they just picked up Bol Bol, Yuta Watanabe, and like, dude, what the hell are you gonna do outside of your three ISO scores? Like, I don't care that you got matched up against two of the best teams in the last two first rounds, the Denver Nuggets and the Wolves. I don't care that you have a sucky bench. Like when you have like arguably the best or second best shooting guard in the league, one of the best small forwards in the league. Like you gotta get out of the first round. But yeah, like as a Kevin Durant hater, I really love what I'm seeing, but no, sucks for Suns.
My guy is licking up tears right now. He's loving it.
Yeah, I'm an F, dude. What's your grade?
F, dude.
I have
like what the heck, dude? The Suns. I think they're the biggest disappointment of the season. Like, say what you want about the Clippers, say what you want about the Lakers. You are not the Suns. Like the Suns are like, they deserve a 0% on this exam. This is awful, disgusting. I love talking about these trash teams. Give me the flame. Yeah. Anyways, I would also like to do the Minnesota Timberwolves just because I've watched them a lot this season, and I think the Timberwolves, they baby the Suns, so automatically they deserve an A+. Just for that, they absolutely, as a Kevin Durant hater, music to my ears, But on a serious note, I think the Wolves deserve an A. Like, if you told a Wolf fan that they're making the conference finals, you're happy. You're absolutely happy with that result. And yes, they honestly choked it against the Mavs a lot. In crunch time, like they were up 2, Anthony Edwards had the ball, then he just goes for a really dumb drive, and then he gets picked. And the moment he gets his pockets picked, Doncic does what he does best, goes in, makes Gobert look like he's doing dance moves on the floor, and then he just drains a 3 in his face.
Yeah, man. I mean, yeah. Sorry.
No, I wasn't saying anything.
Yeah, you really got to be happy as a Wolves fan because number one, they beat the defending champions. I don't care that it took them 7. They beat the defending champions, who a lot expected to make the finals or win the ring, and then you're looking at the team who is pretty clowned for the Gobert trade, like giving up all that Jared Vanderbilt, Malik Beasley, like some solid role players for Gobert, who has proven that even though he's a really good rim protector, like his teams don't win, but he finally has the perimeter defenders around him to be able to hold down the paint on his own. He doesn't have to run out to the corner every time like he did with the Jazz. Like you've got to be happy that the Wolves finally made it work out. Like after losing to the Nuggets the Nuggets losing early last year, like, and they're making it to the conference finals this year. you've got to be happy. And breakouts from Jaden McDaniels, who can once in a while be a good scorer, and he's always been that reliable long wingspan defender that they've needed. And Naz Reid with his winning six man of the year, like Naz Reid. That's all you got to say, Naz Reid.
I'm just gonna say, I'm gonna just a clap out to Nasri. This guy balled out with the Timberwolves this season. Like, credit where credit's due. This guy was on fire against the Mavs in one of the games. Like, I think he missed like only one shot. That was the final buzzing shot. He was sometimes their best player on that court, and he came up huge in Game 7. Like, he was so unbelievably clutch, and that's a big reason why they won against the Nuggets. I think. I'm pretty sure it was against in that Game 7 versus like the Nuggets. Like, he just came in for like there were some putbacks that he had, like really timely shots during the stretch. Like, this guy he just showed up to play, and yeah,
Exactly, yeah. Like he held it down really well because I know a lot of the games in crunch time, Gobert and Towns got into early foul trouble and he had to play a lot more than they expected. But yeah, his 3-point shooting has been really pleasant to see. Like, yeah, 7 for 8 from 3, like he said, in that one game, and he's been pretty dependable. Uh, Naz Reid.
yeah. And I guess one other thing that I would like to add is just like, if you like if you were the Wolves, I think you guys were first round exits last season or something like that. And
Yeah.
making the conference finals with a 22-year-old Anthony Edwards is a huge accomplishment. Like, you're getting him this experience. Like, yes, he kind of choked it in a couple of those games. He didn't play well. These are experiences that he needs to have to get better and to make it there. And Anthony Edwards, amazing personality. Like, I think he's a little bit overrated. Like, this guy was like, they were comparing him to Michael Jordan. Like, please stop. Like, you're leaving him to fail. But like, he's he's so fun to watch, and like, you can see how much effort that he puts in on both sides of the floor, and it's very reminiscent of like players like Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, and that makes him really fun to watch. And yeah, if you're a Wolves fan, you're really ready for next year. Like, the Wolves will get better. Anthony Edwards will get better, and they're gonna learn from their mistakes, and they might be able to make some more splash moves that could really like center their identity. Like, I think that the Timberwolves, as long as they predicate their like identity on defense, will be a very good team for like the next 5 to 10 years. So,
Yeah.
mhm,
No, I didn't say much, but yeah, I'm good.
yeah, just A for me. I think that's your grade too.
Yep,
So
exactly.
yeah, it's gonna move on, and we have the final one, the Golden State Warriors, and please take it.
Sure, yeah. So, yeah, I watched a few considerable Warriors games this season, and with the roster that they've had, and a little off-season, off-court drama, whatever. You wish it would have gone a lot better than it was. Like, yeah, they made it to the play-in and lost to the Kings, but you're really wasting some really great years of Steph's prime, and it really got hurt because you were just in the finals 2 years ago, and then to fall down all the way here is like really shameful. Like, I think the one thing that's really messed them up this season is they couldn't figure out which timeline or which path they wanted to go to, because on one hand, yeah, you have Steph and in his prime, but they were also trying to build around. They were trying to develop Jonathan Kuminga and Moses Moody. Like, sometimes you would see Jonathan Kuminga start, and then he moved to the bench. You'd see Moses Moody get clutch time minutes, and then now he's getting DNPs. Like, they really couldn't decide on that. Like, okay, yeah, Trace Jackson Davis was a really bright spot. Like, he was the center you needed because Looney was struggling, but still, like, I think that's really the one thing that's plagued them this season, and I gave them a D. And with the memes, what's around in the Instagram comment section. Clay went 0 for 10 in an elimination game, and they'll never let him forget that. And it's gotten bad to the point where he's unfollowed them on Instagram, the Warriors on Instagram. And you're kind of confused as a Warriors fan. Like, is Clay really leaving? Like, he like we think he is. What are we gonna do around Steph? And Wiggins, he, as good as he was in the 22 NBA Finals, because of his personal issues, he's shrunk a lot this season, and he's even in 2K he's a 79. He used to be an 80, like always above 80. So really disappointing season for the Warriors.
Yeah, I think I had the Warriors at also a D. Um, Clank Thompson with an O10 performance. And yeah, I mean, Stephen Curry is only getting older, and it's like, do people even remember that Chris Paul is on this roster? Like, I feel like people don't even remember that because like he's had such a forgettable season. And honestly, if we're being honest, I think this roster is not going to win anytime soon. I think Curry might be almost past the point where he can be the best player of his own team. I think, to be honest, it's very difficult, especially with how good the new generation is now, for I think Steph Curry to be maybe the best player on a team and to just lead them to the finals. So if I'm the Warriors, I probably might be looking for like a quote unquote blow it up mode, or like start trying to start the rebuild process. Maybe keep Curry around because like he's an icon, but with the rest of the players, I'm not so sure if they really have much of a future. Um, yeah, I just think it's super funny because there was a guy named what's his name, Brandon Pojemski, outscored Chris Paul and Clank Thompson and the Warriors starting center in that game against the Kings. It's like, man.
Yeah, man. I mean, yeah, this is their first season without their third splash bro, Jordan Poole. Like, yeah, sure, he was disappointing, but they really could have used him off the bench. Like, outside of what, not even Chris Paul, honestly, that bench was really, really iffy going into the season. And I actually went to an NBA game this season. The one game I went to this season was a Warriors and Spurs game. Steph was injured, Wemby was injured, and still they lost to the Spurs team that was starting what I don't know if you know these names, Malachi Branham, Blake Wesley, and Dominic Barlow. Like, dude, that team was like they're the bottom of the barrel, and they still like lost to this Warriors. The Warriors still lost to the Spurs team, and like you gotta feel really bad that I mean, even though you have a ring in this 2020s era, like Steph is like wait just sitting there like what are you gonna do with him? Like do you want to go and rebuild, but you're gonna keep Steph, but Steph wants to win. You don't know if he's gonna stay loyal, but yeah.
Yeah. So ultimately, what do you give this team grade wise?
I'm a D. I'm sticking with D.
I would agree. I had them at D. So yeah, this is our completed tier list. Do you want to make any like adjustments? Do you feel like these are good?
Ooh,
There's no
that'll
D
take a
minus.
while.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you remember what teams we had over the fence? I kind of forgot
For
already.
me,
Like I've
Clippers
gone.
was over the fence. I think the Miami Heat was a little over the fence because I was wondering if they should be a C team. Same with the Kings. The rest of these things, I don't think I'm changing any of this up here.
Yeah, the upper tier looks good. Clippers. I'm still. I don't know. The injuries were really crucial, but at the same time, you still had
No, you
PG
can
and
be a
James
Clippers
Harden.
hater.
So
Yeah.
yeah, no, I mean I'm a Westbrook fan, so I gotta support them. But yeah, at the same time, like I just hate for how good you expect them to be, and still how much they disappoint. I'm cool with sticking them to F.
Yeah.
Uh,
I don't
for
think
the
I'm changing
Heat,
D's or D pluses.
yeah, for the Heat, it's all iffy. Like
I
they
think I'm
still
fine
they
with
still
it.
met. Yeah, I don't think there's a need for changing around. Honestly, like I'm cool with it.
Yeah, I think this is. I'm cool with this. Can can save or download this title of tier list. Uh, Playoff grades. Download that. Description: the Fly Boys. Fly Boys grades. Okay, and then probably just download that, and then yeah. Anyways, I think we're pretty sold on all of these teams now. Like, I could zoom out a little bit. Got this.
Yeah.
The completed tier list. I think,
Yeah.
yeah, I think this is all there is to it. Anyways, do you have any other comments, thoughts?
Yeah, just a few. I mean, it's crazy that this NBA season went so fast. Like, I mean, it was like one of the least maybe like exciting finals. But I mean,
It
a
makes
little
sense.
more storyline than last year, like with Denver and Miami. But you know, it's crazy with all this off-court season drama. Like, you didn't have such a as much of a big off season, but I think like there's a lot of storylines that kind of made up for it. And yeah, and to end that, yeah, and, thank you for having me on the podcast. I really appreciate this, and
Yeah.
it's cool to find a guy who knows ball like me. So yeah,
Likewise,
appreciate for
likewise.
being on here.
Yeah, likewise. Thank you for being willing to kind of get all these grades. I think yeah, just this NBA season was like I don't know how to feel cuz like it was really there's a lot of unexpected stuff, but like it wasn't like that interesting, you know? Like there what like the finals was really underwhelming. The conference finals was horrible. Like yeah, it was just the only good stuff happened in like the first and second rounds of the playoffs and then yeah, the normal playoff standing structure as it went. And I think yeah, they could have done a lot better job to like advertise the NBA finals, but they weren't able to ultimately. Yeah, so I guess that sort of wraps up this kind of session. Um Honestly, it was a lot of fun just being able to research these teams and just to like see like kind of more like cuz I know like fans tend to be like really like polarizing and very strong-headed about how they feel about something, but yeah, just being able to discuss it was a very fun time. So yeah, thank you once again to Mr. Fly Guy, Mr. Colin, just for yeah his time on the research and all this stuff. Yeah, and yeah, for those of you that are watching, we hope that you enjoyed it. Hope that this is something fascinating, interesting to you guys. Hope you guys were entertained. And yeah, please hit subscribe. I'll have the channels listed down for Colin. And yeah, just please leave feedback if there is any. And yeah, we'll see you guys next time. Thank you. Peace.